All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today I'm talking with my newfound friend Aria. That's how you
Hey,
pronounce it, right? And
yes, sir.
sir, ooh, geez. I'm not really a sir. It's okay. I haven't been knighted yet. Yeah. Fuck off, Vice Rhino. I just got a notification that Vice Rhino went live. I'm gonna have to give him shit. He's doing it at the same time I'm going.
Competition.
Oh, don't worry, he wins. He's got way more subscribers than I do. But anyways, Aria, basically what I do here is I talk to people about their journeys away from their religious beliefs and, the ups, the downs, the stuff like that that's happened since that time, and whatever, led you to becoming more of an activist in the community or whatnot for atheism.
Right.
That kind of thing. Because I know you're on the Discord. You're in the ACA Discord. You're in mine. You're in probably a few others, I imagine. So, so why don't you take us kind of as far back as you can. You can think about where you first started thinking that this stuff was garbage and, how the dominoes fell and led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so you're saying I can take this from the beginning when I became religious and maybe the ways I thought and what I believed and then so on?
Yeah, you betcha.
Okay.
I mean, we do have an hour to fill, and then we have an after party.
Oh, man.
Always fun. Always fun.
Well, I look forward to it, but to just lay it out real quick, I was a non-denominational Christian, which usually non-denominational means some kind of Baptist or something along those lines, but
right.
Essentially, I was a fundamentalist, a literalist. Satan put the dinosaur bones in the earth to trick us.
Really?
Really? Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a good Alice in Chains album, I might add. The devil put dinosaur bones in. I think that's what it's called anyway.
Something like that. But as funny as it is, I wasn't necessarily raised in that kind of environment. My family, my whole thing is kind of interesting. My family, for the most part, at least my immediate family that I had touch with and could see and hear from ever since I was born, was pretty much the secular Christian. Hey, we believe in God and Jesus. We don't go to church though, but hey, they're real. Believe in them. We're all good. Heaven's cool. And that's how it was for. Cool. Yeah.
Free beer in heaven.
Yeah. My grandfather, Pap, that was the nickname I gave him when I was a baby, or a toddler. He was probably the most radical of all of us, but even then he didn't bring Jesus in at the Thanksgiving dinner and all that stuff. But he always did like to say his piece, like it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, for example.
Yep, that old trope.
Yeah, but it started for me about around 12, 13 years old that I started, I had a friend who had a more religious family. Mm-hmm. They weren't hardcore like where I went either, but I talked to them about it, and they just said, oh yeah, look into the Bible. They handed me one of the Bibles they had on the shelf, and let me look into it. I started reading it. They gave me they told me to look in the New Testament because, Jesus, all that stuff.
Yeah, he's not mentioned in the old one, so.
Yeah. So I started in the New Testament. I started reading about Jesus, and I always remember one of the parables. I think one of the parable that got me, I forget the specific name of it, but it was the one about, it was a parable about believers, like with the mustard seed or something.
Oh, where, this is ringing a bell already.
Yeah, where, some believers like it'll illustrate like some won't even sprout at all. Those can kind of like be the atheists or just the non-believers. And then some will sprout, but then they'll get, overflowed by debris or taken by birds. And then some will sprout into something beautiful. And that parable stuck out to me for some reason. And I guess that's what kind of spurred me on from there. moving on to about 14 years old, that's when I got quote unquote saved.
Right.
And from there, I went into like hyperdrive with reading the Bible and talking to other people about it, and even looking at apologetics online, looking at just anything and everything I could. Uh, even
Did you
at a
ever go to
family reunion.
did you ever go to the AIG sites?
I cannot remember if I did, unfortunately. But
They're always a hoot and a holler.
yeah, I bet they are. But and then fast forward a few months to a family reunion on my dad's side. And it was the funny thing, a lot of the people on my dad's side of the family are pretty uber religious, like Baptists.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny to me because my dad was the one who wasn't really, at the very least, explicitly like that. And I talked to one of my aunts, her name is Irene, and I talked to her about it. She actually sent me a Bible, like a New Living Translation, kind of like for the youngins.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I have a copy of
and
that specific one around here somewhere.
yeah,
New Living Bible or whatever.
and that's actually the one I've read pretty much from beginning to end, and I've even read plenty of several passages and a few of the books from different versions and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
But yeah, just really going into my psyche in that I feel kind of gross going back to that, going back to that way of just looking back at that way of thinking. I was so just anti-science, anti-LGBT. I mean, yeah, I was even pretty bigoted or racist
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, and just mm, like there are so many things. I apologize. I know we're going off the cuff here. That's kind of why I'm
That's
a
okay,
little
man. It's okay. Gather your thoughts. It's all good.
gather the thoughts.
My listening audience is quite patient. They'll probably
Good, good.
crack a joke or two, but you know, we're old enough. We can handle that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you can, I don't know what you're doing, but
Yeah. What are you doing online?
yeah. But I guess getting into the darker side of it, I was to the point where I was even pushing away some friends. Like I had a good group of friends in high school, and my religiosity was a bit too like just so significant, so intense that they kind of distanced themselves from me. But I had it in my head. It's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. If I have God, I don't need anything else. Everything else is just an accessory. Everything else is just a bonus or a luxury. That's pretty much the way I thought about friends, other people,
Right.
my family, even.
That almost
Because,
sounds very Jehovah Witnesses, because they often
well,
tell their
yeah,
families to not make so many outside friends because of the Armageddon and all that, right? So
yeah, and
it's coming
like,
any day now.
yeah, anytime now. We swear, but yeah, like even in the Bible, Jesus says, you know, you can't be my disciple if you don't hate your mother. You know,
Right.
basically, yeah. I kind of just looked at my family members as accessories more than anything, and Jesus and God were the only things that mattered. Yeah, very very hard line. Uh-oh.
Sounds like it. That's just my phone.
Oh yeah, no, you're not gonna bother me by saying that. It's very radical and very toxic way of thinking,
Sure.
frankly. Um, Even going from there, I had a friend. We went to this church event. I don't know how widespread or well known this kind of event for a church is, but it's called Forge. we went to a Forge event back in 2014. That was my junior year in high school, and that was an experience. You had a whole group of people just yelling and speaking in tongues, and it was off the wall. There was even where like I felt this force, and like I kind of collapsed on my knees, and then someone put their hand on me. And looking back, they were like just speaking in tongues and being really loud. But honestly, when that person put their hand on me and started doing that, it honestly kind of scared me, even as a religious person at the time who believed just like they did. I was kind of like, it's like, I don't know what to do. But
don't touch me.
I think I still have the wristband of that event from the event in a memoir box in my closet over there. But I don't know. I bet someone will probably tell me, nah, subconsciously you kept that because God is always going to be there to let you know He wants you back.
Of course.
They'll always find a way to weasel something in there.
Yep.
But
that's what they do.
Oh yeah.
They're spreading the good word, right?
Yeah. And there are even plenty of times where I just straight up condemn people to hell. You know, I told them, yeah, you're just going to go to hell, plain and simple. And just for anything from listening to music that has a cuss word to liking a celebrity that happens to be gay, or so on and so forth. You can list off all the crazy shit. I probably believed it and said something about it. I didn't even like books like Harry Potter. I thought they were evil, like Satan spawn kind of shit.
Wow. J.K. Rowling would be impressed with that, I guess.
Maybe
J.K., you're devil spawn, you.
Yeah, I was that far. Like, even thinking so far ahead as I'm not even gonna. If I have a child, I'm not gonna let them watch these TV shows because they have magic, and magic is, evil and of the devil.
Magic is evil. I've always found that to be one of the funnier statements because if you read the Bible,
what does God do?
It's all fucking magic. So he's like,
and how do you distinguish?
He just wiggles his nose and everything appears, right? Or he speaks it in. So that's basically an incantation, which is basically
he
magic.
speaks it. Yeah, an incantation. Mm-hmm. Just like with the creation of Adam and Eve, or at least with Adam, it was a golem spell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know all about that. I was raised in the Jewish faith myself, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, golem comes from the Judaism, so.
Yeah. And yeah, I just took everything in the Bible literally. But that about covers my way of thinking and who I was in a rough sense.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't afraid to cast people out of my life. I wasn't afraid to condemn people. I wasn't ashamed to love Jesus and spread the word of God.
Many aren't who are still involved, so.
Yeah.
But how did that ever, even though you knew at the time that you were all about the Jesus and stuff like that, did it ever affect you knowing that you were giving up friends and stuff like that? Did it ever bother you, mentally, that sort of thing? On a deeper level, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it did for maybe a few days at a time for each friend. Now, just let me say this: I never lost any of these friends because of religion, thankfully, because right around the time that was going on, that's when I fell out of it, and they came back around for me because they're just that fucking awesome. But
that's good. That's cool.
But speaking to that question, there was always get my words here. There was a little bit of grief going on, just the thought of damn, I might have to let these people go for Jesus. I have to do it for God, yada yada yada. But my mind kind of always snapped back, the next day or so, going, well, you know what? What's more worth it? The manly desires that you have on this earth, or what you'll get in heaven and what God wants, what's more worth it, and that is usually what made me feel better about it and just block it out.
Sure. That's, we often, especially if we believe in something like that, we often rationalize how we behave, right? So,
Yeah, for sure.
I can see that happening. Definitely. You kind of feel bad, but at the same time, you're like, but you know what? Ultimately, I get to spend eternity with God or whatever. So,
Yeah, and if I see them there, then I can chill with them too.
yeah. Yeah. But they're, are they believers? Like, were they another form of Christian, or, and just not
My
Christian enough to hang out with you kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, the thing is, I was relatively fine hanging out with anybody at first, but once I found out my friend, one of my best friends from high school, his mom and his sister were religious enough to go to church on Sundays, but he just didn't care. He just said, I don't really care about that stuff. I'm kind of agnostic atheist, kind of, and
Sure.
that's kind of what pushed me off from him. It's like, oh, I don't know, Satan's working around with him. I don't want to catch that influence. Stuff like that. That kind of thought process. Same thing
Okay.
with another one of my high school friends. Happened a little while later, but forgot where I was going with that.
It'll come back to you.
And even one of my friends who, in that same group, who was religious himself, he was a Christian and he was, proud of it, but he didn't do any kind of shit like me. Like, here's him and here's me.
Whole nother level.
Yeah. Forgive me. I'm just coming out of being sick.
Oh, it's okay.
Fever and a cold. So I just got a little bit of a cough left over, thankfully.
I've been hacking a lot lately too. So, and I had a really, really nasty cold that was stuck with me for almost a month, and I think it's still lingering a little bit. So, yeah, it's terrible. There's really bad ones this year. Once I know I'm free of this one, I'm gonna get a flu shot. So,
yeah. Next week I'm flying up to Indiana and be seeing my fiance. So thank goodness I got sick now or sick earlier instead of now. That would have sucked. I would have told her I don't care. Yes, I do have a fiance.
Oh, when do you guys have a date planned for getting hitched?
We're looking at May 2021. Depends on how things go with financials and all that stuff. We'll see.
Sure.
But we know we want it, so that's the important part.
That's awesome, dude.
And we can talk about her once we get more out of the how I got out of it.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Unless you had like another question on my way of thinking that might flush it out a little better. This is the real kicker too. The part where I kind of fell out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was 17. So I've been invested in this stuff about 4.5 years at most.
Okay.
Really invested in that way of thinking, having that connection, that relationship with Jesus and God. See, here's another thing. I was not the Christian that said Jesus is God. Like when I read the Bible word for word, there were very clearly two different entities even after the resurrection.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's one thing. Even as an atheist, when I see that with other believers, it kind of bugs me because it's like it's very clear in the text that they're not the same entity. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Let the Catholics fight that one out with the rest of them.
Yeah, that's their fight. They can tear each other apart. But the real shit kicker of it all was when I came out of it. I was actually in a private Christian school.
Oh, that
Yep.
must have been interesting.
It was. Now, thankfully, I was able to keep it under wraps and nobody found out, especially because I was on the varsity baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been bad if they found out and I was still on that team. Ugh. That would not mean they would have made practice in every which way hell for me in some subtle way, but they didn't find out, so that's good. Hey, we won the championship that year.
That's awesome.
Yep. But yeah, it was my junior year in high school. I was 17 years old, and I had a friend who I talked to on the phone a lot. He was an internet friend, and I always talked to him about this and that with Jesus, and he got to the point where he was asking me questions, and I was always happy to answer questions for Jesus and God, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Bring my friend to Christ. But his questions were more of, oh, how do you rationalize this? How do you rationalize or justify God sending innocent gay people to hell, or infinite punishment beyond our comprehension for finite crimes, and
Yep.
all those kinds of questions to try and get the ball, kind of get the cogs turning in my head.
Right. So you use some
I
sort
was
of
always
like a street epistemology almost.
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, or not eventually, but for the most part, it all just kind of boiled down to, well, I don't make the rules. It's up to God. I just tell people about them because I love people and I don't want them to burn, you know. But and he would snap back with, well, God's kind of the one that puts them there, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much the kind of thing that shuts me down. But armor of God and all that. But that's where it kind of started, because after that conversation, he said, "You know what? Now that you preach at me and you this and that, now you can sit and listen to me, hear my position on things and the way I think about them." And I at least was decent enough of a person to be fair to him and hear what he had to say. And that's where it started. From there, I just kind of got more curious, you could say. But I also looked into what he looked into, or told me to look into, and then I tried to look up apologetics for it to try to justify it. And it worked for about 2 weeks. And from there, I just kind of kept finding more and more stuff. Then I found the counter apologetics. Like, I always remember this one example that just blows my mind how stupid I was. Or I was either stupid or I was just desperate. Probably a bit of both. But I looked up like proof of God, and it was talking about the strings of data or code on DNA being like numbers and stuff. And it was like, this is God's implant on your heart. And they were like saying like, this is actual data and stuff. And I didn't realize till like 2 years later when I actually looked into the science of it. No, those numbers and things are just what we put on the chemical processes so that we can interpret and understand them. They're not actual numbers or data and stuff. But that was enough for me at the time. And you go ahead.
Oh no, carry on.
Okay, but in that moment, that was enough for me to help me strong in my faith. But this is where it just kind of gets crazy. When I started losing my faith, I started finding people like Matt Dillahunty, Armored Skeptic, when he wasn't such a controversial figure, when he talked about more sciencey stuff, especially surrounding religion, logic, and other people I can't remember the name of. And yeah, he is.
Yeah, Armored Skeptic kind of. I don't know what happened to that guy, man. He just sort of.
I don't know either. Like, I still personally, I like some of his videos when he'll talk about stuff, but his content's kind of changed a bit, and I don't know, just not as interested. I don't dislike him or anything. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of gone far afield from what he was, or at least what I liked about him.
Yeah.
But at the time I listened to him and I thought it was great, but even then, even hearing all of that stuff about the fossil record and, disputing creationism, all that stuff, somehow I was still able to hang on just a little bit, but it kept getting chipped away at. And then basically I was a castle of glass, and then I found Aaron Ra. And he came into that castle of glass with a sledgehammer and just started whacking away.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Yeah, his foundational falsehoods of creationism,
Yep.
that video series, I just started listening to it, and I was just, that's what finally just broke it. That's just what broke it for me. That's what did me in. But even then, even though I heard all this convincing, all this data, just everything, there was still a part of me that just wanted to hang on. And this was also at a time when I was very depressed because of other stressors and factors going on in my life, which I can probably talk more about in the after show. But I still remember one night when I was just praying to God, like, I've seen all this stuff, I've looked at all this and that, but please, I know you're real, I know you're real, I know you're there, but please just don't let me go. Please bring me back, do something. Please do not let me go. Like, I was in tears, I was in shambles, begging God not to let me go. Because, that's a relationship I felt I had with God. I've been serving God and being his little whatever for that set amount of time.
I know what you were going to say.
Oh boy. But I just begged and begged and begged, in shambles, in tears, and then I just kind of fell asleep crying. I don't really know when. But as a few weeks onward, it just I just realized, I guess I'm an atheist. I just finally accepted it. And from there on, there was one thing that happened pretty early on, near the end of the school year, that I kind of really see as like a good thing.
Okay.
Stepping away from religion, it finally let me broaden my horizons, open up my eyes, and really think about stuff.
Funny how that works, eh?
Yeah, really. God is he's life, he's truth and love and the way. But you can't really think about or question shit.
Right. He's the way until you look out the window.
Pretty much. But I'm bisexual, and I'm not afraid to say that. People shouldn't
You
be.
shouldn't be. Exactly. You
But
are who you are.
yeah, exactly. And at that time, not too long after coming out of it, I thought about it. I was like, I even had these little thoughts going back from being a kid about basically liking other guys or having an attraction to other guys, like even these celebrities I would see in movies, celebrity crushes.
Of course.
And I finally accepted it after thinking about it, because I was like, man, I've been repressing and suppressing thoughts since I was a kid, and my religion just buried it so deep. And that was one of my big first steps coming out of it. And I don't know, I'm still I don't really see my sexuality as something to be proud of, but I'm proud of myself for coming out of it and being able to accept myself.
It's not, your sexuality, I don't think, is something you necessarily have to be proud of. You just are who you are, and that's not going to change, right? So you just be proud of who you are in general, and that's
exactly.
And that sexuality comes as a part of the package.
Pretty much. And going on from there, don't get me wrong, this was still a depressing time in my life. I was going through a lot of shit.
Yeah, I hear that often. When people come away from religion, they start to hit that depression stage a little bit.
Yeah,
Fear,
well, I was already having it before, and then coming out of it just amplified it a bit. So
Sure.
But after that, I started listening more to R and Ra, more Matt Dillahunty, And then I found the Atheist Experience, which is a
Wait,
wonderful show.
so you found Dillahunty before you found Atheist Experience?
Yeah.
Really? What, some of his atheist debate stuff, or?
Yeah, his atheist debate stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was funny because how I found it, I was at my grandmother's while I was living with my grandmother at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But because some shit happened.
Was she watching them?
No.
Okay.
It'd be nice to let her listen, but she's just very, oh yeah, I believe in God. God's blessed me, but she's a wonderful lady. I love my Mimi. She's awesome.
Oh yeah,
But
sure. Grandmas are awesome, man.
Yes, they are. But especially when they're more of a mother than your actual mother. But that's another story.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you.
But it was funny because I just had a simple. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have any of that for myself until I graduated high school. But
Were you Amish?
No, it's just my family was kind of poor and didn't care. But I just remember I was mowing my grandmother's lawn. I do that every weekend for her. And I was just like, man, I want something more to listen to than just music. And I've heard these things called podcasts. Let's see what those are about. So all I did was type up Atheist in the iTunes store, and the first thing I see is the Atheist
Seth
Experience.
Anderson. Oh, okay.
Nope, Atheist Experience. I saw his too. I think I listened to a few of his, but something about the Atheist Experience just hooked me hard.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah. And listening to that also really helped me hear about how other people thought, and then the arguments they had, and then just, Tracy, John, Matt, Don, just everybody I can hear. I'm not going to say pick apart and destroy, because that's kind of not how you're really supposed to look at those kind of conversations.
Right.
Some of them you can, because they are, but it's not a great way to look at every conversation. Just, not in my opinion. I think you should try to take something and learn something from those kinds of conversations. But yeah, that was a fun time. Just being out there in the backyard, because it was a big yard. It took me about 2 hours to mow the whole thing.
Holy shit! You need a ride-em lawnmower, man.
I was a push mower too.
Oh, fuck me! I'd be dead after that. I just want to say one thing real quick before you carry on. Somebody just popped into the chat that I've never seen in my chat before. Who's got the name God equals the square root of 1, which is awesome.
Okay.
And they agree with you. The Atheist Experience does a lot of good. Welcome, God equals the square root of 1. That's one of the best names I've seen so far.
I apologize. That goes over my head. I'm not sure what that means.
The square root of 1 is 0, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Or negative 1. Negative 1, imaginary.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Math just kind of.
What's Bob Smith?
Left my.
Oh, Bob, you fooled me. Negative 1. Yeah, it's not 0. It's negative 1. I didn't go far enough.
Math just kind of flew out my head for a minute there.
Yeah, well, it does that with me all the fucking time. So, when I'm at work, it's not good when that happens. When I'm at work, I'm like, fuck, what's the formula for this again? I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I could have told you it was 0 or negative 1, but at that moment, my brain just, what's math? But
well, you're
to be fair,
your train of thought is on something completely different. So
yeah, and to be fair, my math is my single worst subject ever. So, but going with that, sorry, my glasses.
It's okay.
But going on with that, it was funny because there was one night where I actually called the Recovering from Religion hotline, and I forget what I talked to them about, but they were helpful to me. And one day when my dad picked me up to take me to my orthodontist for my braces, just to get them tightened, he just kind of casually, nonchalant, brought it up. You know, son, we saw you talking to this hotline. Called them at like 11:43 p.m. I was like, God damn, Dad, you remember the fucking timestamp? I didn't say that to him, but that's just what went through my mind.
Sure.
And he saw that I was the recovering from religion. And
Oh.
he basically told me, he wasn't mad. He was just like, son, you know I don't care if you're an atheist. My best friends in the world that live down in Florida, Chuck and Liz, they're atheists. But when it came to me, he just said, but how can you look around and not realize there's a God? I basically just said, Dad, that's
The
just a
look at
God
the
of the
trees
gap.
argument.
Yeah, I just said, Dad, that's a God of the gaps fallacy. That's not going to work in a conversation like this. And he was like, what the hell does that mean? And I said, basically, you're looking at everything and it looks nice and it looks pretty. You can't really explain why it is, so you're just filling in God to, fill in the gap there. He was just like, ooh, God of the gaps fallacy, whatever. He just basically mumbled. And the conversation turned into something else. But honestly, that was a moment where I got scared.
Really?
Like, oh shit, is my
he going
dad
to kill
like
me?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, because my orthodontist, he lived down my private school, and that house that I lived in with them was in the boonies. If you know Monticello, Georgia, that's very much the sticks.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar. I've not been through there, so I'm not really familiar with it. But.
Yeah, it's very redneck country, very woodland area. So it actually did cross my mind. I was like, man, there's lots of forest around here. Is my dad gonna kill me?
Lots of places to get buried.
Pretty much. I didn't genuinely think he was, but like, he had an opportunity out there.
Well, what do you mean porn is nasty? Come on, Celine. Like you've never watched the porn. Come on.
Well, there are two kinds of people: those who look at porn and liars.
Yeah, and the ones that lie and say they don't. I lost one of my my lights today. I had this old little desk lamp that I've been using for like forever, and it finally bit it. And then I picked up, like, what's wrong with this thing? And as I pick it up, I can hear little bits and pieces inside all shaking. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh man. Yeah, the funny thing about my setup here is I'm not even using a laptop. I'm just using my phone's camera. I legit just have some books stacked here, mm-hmm. and then a book behind my kickstand to keep it straight, and this is the best I could do. So
it's working great so far.
I hope so.
So far.
But so far. We'll see where the rest goes.
Yeah.
Maybe God will send a sign and they'll blow my phone up. I don't know. But from there, I can really only say positive things about myself. It's been a learning curve. It's been a process. Mm-hmm. Even up to now, 4 or 5 years later, I'm still learning a lot of things, and I'm getting better. My critical thinking skills are way, way better than they were back then. I'm way more science-minded. I'm way more skeptical of things, and I just, especially listening to the atheist experience and going to other sources, and I've just become a better communicator as well. Like talking to people. I know here maybe it doesn't look so good because it's nervous. I know I'm kind of.
Are you nervous? So. You shouldn't be nervous, man.
Well, I don't want to say I'm nervous, but I'm a little shook up. But when it comes to conversation, you go ahead.
I wonder, could it be that you have to sort of remember all this stuff and re-talk about it? That might be doing that a little bit.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But I've just also become a better communicator in general, like in part thanks to shows like Atheist. Listen to the way they try to talk to people, especially Talk Heathen, the way they try to talk to people and facilitate conversation, and many other sources, especially going through counseling for 5 years, listening to how they talk to me and how they do things.
I've actually become quite good friends with Eric and Jamie, actually.
Yeah, Eric is awesome. I love all of them down there. But
I highly recommend the episode where I interviewed him.
yeah, I
one
was
of my
going to
early
look into
ones.
that. I also want to watch the one you did with Aria and Ra.
That's a good one.
Because one thing I do need to mention, ever since that day where he broke me, or not since that day, but a few days later, I just became a massive fan of Aria and Ra. I'm a huge fan of Aria and Ra. I became a $20 patron for a short period of time, and I even got that
Me too.
shirt with the autograph, and I got his book.
Hold it. Just a sec. You mean this one? Hang on here. You got it here somewhere. Or do I? Pretty sure I do.
saw.
Yeah, here, this one.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
And I even have his book, The Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism, over there on my bookshelf.
I have the audio version. I've yet to get the hard copy. I think I'll get it right from him when next time I'm in Texas again, and just have him throw his Aaron Ross signature in there too.
Oh my gosh. He was at the Atheist Experience almost a month ago. Like, he wasn't on the show, but he was in the back room. He was there.
Yep.
And I was listening to that I was listening to that podcast the next day when I heard that he was there. I was at work and I was like, I was at work, but I want.
You live in the Austin area?
Yeah, I'm a little northeast of Austin, about an hour away from the library itself.
Shit, man. Next time I'm down there, we'll have to hook up.
Hey, it sounds fun to me.
But
yeah, I can imagine. You seem like you're fun for conversation, but I was just so upset because every time I go to the library, I always bring that book with me just in case he's there. And the one time I'm not going, he's there. Just my luck. But but moving on from that, yeah, I personally I know my story isn't as explosive or gripping as other people's, but
it's been good so far. I mean, you've gone through a lot of things that are quite similar to other people, and you've gone through some stuff that is clearly unique to you, right?
Yeah, of course. But yeah, like losing when I lost God and Jesus, all that stuff. One thing I actually wanted to mention is I actually almost I made an attempt on my life, really. Yeah, once I felt like I lost that relationship, and like I mentioned earlier, how much I built up that relationship, how much value it had in my mind, like nothing else mattered except for God. You can see why that kind of losing that relationship, how big of a effect it had on me. You can kind of see why I got in that direction, especially with already having some stuff like depression and stuff like that already going on before. But thankfully I didn't. Before I did it, I just asked myself, why not one more day? And then the next day I just kind of got myself in the head, like, all right, let's try one more week. And that's pretty much the phrase that kept me here.
Well, you're getting some love from the comment section too.
So, well, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, all I see is, you're in the show, everyone can see and hear you, and I have like a little duplicate camera of myself over there, but I'm not going to touch anything because I'd hate for something to happen. So
that's okay. That's all right.
Or actually, maybe I can touch the chat.
Yeah, it should say a little box there that says live chat, and you can see some of the stuff there.
Oh, live comments.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I can pull that up. But then I can't see our pretty faces.
Oh.
What happened?
You're probably better off. Wait, what? Duke is saying his Twitter is suspended permanently?
Oh.
Dude, that's not cool. Should get on that.
Uh-oh.
Badger. Hello from the comments. That's not a good thing, Duke. Yes, Crazy Catnip, there will be an after show. And of course, you're welcome to come in.
Yeah, who's all gonna be in the after show?
Really, it depends on whoever clicks on the links I drop all over the place first. So usually Duke pops in when he's around. IQ, who's my moderator extraordinary, moderator extraordinaire. I should learn English first. He'll jump in from time to time. Badger jumps in from time to time, but he's very prone to falling asleep in them. So because he's in England and it's like stupid o'clock in the morning there right now. So
Yeah, it's like probably about to be midnight for him already.
Yep. No, I think four. Yeah, probably midnight. Yep. And Orla doesn't jump in them though. I just see them all in the chat there. We got about 20 people in there right now. So
Yeah, and we still got about 15 minutes or so.
yeah.
But yeah, just if anything, looking back on my time leaving religion, it's been nothing but this massive growth period for me, politically, critically thinking wise, just growing in general.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think if I were religious still, I wouldn't have nowhere near as much growth as I do, as I've gotten now. I really don't think so. And what also flies in the face of that religious stuff, like I found out I was bi, and my fiance is actually a transgender woman, which would have never happened if I were still religious. And
probably not.
Yeah, and to be frank, she pretty much saved my life. So she says I did the same for her, but I don't know.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. That's really cool.
I appreciate that a lot. She knows I'm on the show. She's probably playing Halo Reach right now on the computer with her friends, since that just came out on PC.
Oh, that's right too.
Yeah. I actually called in to Talk Heathen. Do you watch Talk Heathen?
Do I? Of course. I've called into the show.
Yeah, I called in to Talk Heathen about a little more than a month ago. And
really?
Yeah, I was Dylan and Colleen, and I was struggling with old religious thinking.
Oh my goodness! I think I remember your call.
Yes, and it was funny because Eric told me to like think about like what really caused that, what might have caused that. And at first I didn't know, but then I realized, wait a second, there was this asshole in the elevator that basically said it might be a blessing if I died because I get to go see God. And that's probably where it started. But yes, that was me. Man. But that call really did help me. He helped me kind of think about it more, like the tools in my epistemological toolbox that like maybe I'm still using that might have brought about that kind of thinking and got that snowball rolling on that kind of anxiety, all that stuff surrounding that. So he helped me figure that out. V and Eric did. V is awesome.
V's yeah. Actually, she's been one of my more recent favorite conversations on my show here. So V's she's just amazing all around.
Yeah, I listened to she and Jenna Belk's interview on Matt Dillahunty's channel. Those were wonderful. But yeah, when it comes to all that, I mean, I'm not, unless you have other questions, I'm not too sure what else I can say about it. Like, that's who I was, that's how I thought, that's in a general sense, that's what I did. And then that's what I went through.
Free.
I found my way out, and I'm more politically minded. I'm more critical. I'm always trying to find ways to learn and be better. And
that's all that anyone could ask of anyone.
Yeah.
Really. Just be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what I want to do. And like I said, all the friends that I had that were kind of drifting off from me all came right back around once the shit hit the fan for me. And things were great. Once I went back to my old public school for 12th grade, my friends were all there, and was a good year for the most part.
Awesome.
And
Well, I think the only real question that I would have left to ask you before we got into an after party is concerning your friends, your immediate friends, and your family. How is your relationship with them now?
my friends, well, we're awesome. I'm living with one of them right now.
Okay.
Nice little house. I got this little bunk bed that's all to myself.
Do you sleep on top or on the bottom?
Oh, I sleep on the bottom. These the ladder rungs are kind of, they're rectangular prisms. They're not round, so it hurts like hell to step on them. Me being a 5'9", 190-pound guy, it hurts. It hurts to step on them things, and it's a pain in the ass to get out. If I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, it kind of sucks to have to go down that. So no, I sleep on the bottom bunk. I got a whole little setup there. I mean, you can see a little deer I have chilling out in the corner.
I do. It looks like a little Bambi or something.
Yeah, that's something one of my cousins gave me as a gift on my birthday like 2 years ago. That little thing just chills right there. We could do a tour of my room during the after show if you really want that. I got all kinds of stuff. I'm a huge nerd. I saw you had like some figures in the background yourself and all that.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
the stuff that I never put into storage.
yeah,
I have tons of shit in storage.
but yeah. Speaking of friends, it's like we're great. The problems with family ties don't really tie to religion. It's more other issues, which I don't care. I don't mind going into. But me and my dad were fine, but stuff a few years ago kind of changed and our relationship changed, but like we still love each other. We're still awesome. Like if I could go see my dad right now, like hell yeah, I would.
Mhm.
Um, my mom, that has to do with stuff from childhood. She was basically neglectful and abusive and so on and so forth, and still to this day isn't a really good person.
Okay.
Um, so
That's
I
too bad.
mean, she's my mom. I'm still gonna care about her on some level, whether I like it or not.
Yep. It's not something I
Um,
think you can help really.
yeah, my Mimi, we're good. She helped me, you know, can't really keep my Mimi away, especially since she helped me pay off my credit card debt. So yeah,
Awesome.
there was a point in time just last year where I had lost my home and I got rejected for like food stamps and stuff. So I had to apply for a credit card to be able to live.
Right.
So, but she helped me pay off the debt because it's just been weighing on me. It wasn't like thousands of dollars, thankfully, but she helped me nonetheless. And I appreciate her for that. And my aunt Jamie from this is all from my mom's side. I don't know what we are. Some stuff happened last year, and I love her to death. She's done nice things for me, but I don't know what she thinks of me. My cousins tell me she asks about me and my girlfriend and all that, but I've even tried getting in touch with her, but I don't know. She just doesn't answer me. But she's
Hmm.
also a full-time nurse, and she's had another kid.
Oh,
So
well,
I
her
don't know.
time is being consumed quite a bit, I imagine.
Yeah, so I'm not taking it too hard.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, you just keep trying to reach out and see what happens. Eventually, you guys will connect at some point and you can catch
Yeah,
up.
at some point, even if it's got to be the wedding
Exactly.
or a funeral. Ugh.
Don't worry, your dad's not going to kill you.
Sometimes I wonder if he is. Nah, I'm joking.
Well,
Oh man.
it sounds like you were able to at least maintain or somewhat salvage a relationship with your folks in general. Maybe
Yeah.
not so much with the mom, but you were saying that she was kind of on that way anyways, even before all of this. So.
Yeah, she's. It's always funny how she's. Well, I'm not really gonna go that deep, but
It's fine.
she's a very interesting person. Very, very interesting.
Maybe I should have her on the show.
I don't know about that.
Who the hell are you? Just
Who are
some
you calling
Canadian
me?
dude. Some random
What's that?
Canadian dude, man. Yeah.
But yeah, that's about all there is for me when it comes to
Wow.
the religious stuff and coming out of it. Now, I could talk for hours about plenty of other things, though.
Well, you'll have an opportunity to in a few minutes when we jump into an after show or after party. So basically, what I'll do is I'll send you a new link. I'm going to go and have a quick cigarette and take a quick leak because beer, you only rent beer. So give me about somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, and then I'll give you a fresh, brand new link, and we'll jump into that, and I'll extend the invite to my usual crew and see who would like to jump in and hang out with us. Anyways, guys, if you're not in my usual suspects group and you would like a link to join the after party, just let me know through Twitter, or if you're not on Twitter, through Facebook, and I will get one to you. Anyways, Aria, man,
right.
it was great chatting with you. I'm glad you wanted to come on and do this. And it's nice to actually meet you in person, kind of virtually, I guess we'll say. But that'll change next time I'm down in Texas, which will be this spring when we do the Faithless Forum again. So
yeah, I appreciate you having me on and talking with me. It was nice to share it and get more people to hear it, because some people, like I said, you can take something away from these conversations and it can signal to people that, hey, you're not alone, and people understand this kind of thing. I love doing this kind of thing.
That's great, dude. That's why I do these shows, is hopefully it helps somebody somewhere at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the main focuses of why I do this. So thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing your stuff.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. I look forward to getting that link for the after show, see what kind of crazy stuff we can get into.
If you haven't seen any of them, you're in for something.
Well, we'll see then.
Because they're a lot of fun. All right. So anyways, guys, we are going to get into the after party in a little bit. So if you're interested again, just let me know. And like I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, oh, and by the way, thanks for watching and hanging out with us. And remember the links below. If you like what I do here and you want to chip in somehow, there are a few ways to do that. You can become a patron. You can do a one-time donation if you want through PayPal. And you can also grab something off my Amazon wish list to help out with the show, because it's all show-related stuff that I have there. And until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.